Well, hello everybody, here we are at the end of week 2 of school back at St Dunstan's. I hope you're all well. It does feel here as though we are steadily now getting into a new routine, however unusual and different it may feel for everybody. It does feel like we're now settling down a bit and getting into the new rhythm and routines of what life is to be like here for the foreseeable future. And as we begin to do that, of course, we do start to think a little bit beyond just getting the classroom routines back to normality, and so gradually over the next week or so you will start to see things like the co-curricular programme start to kick back into life, and in fact that begins with the senior school next week, which we're all very excited by. Of course it was very disappointing for year 4 and indeed for the whole community that we did have our first confirmed case of COVID-19 this week. As ever, we follow the advice from the Department for Education and from Public Health England very, very closely. All of Year 4 have now gone home, along with the teachers who are in close contact with them in order to self-isolate. It does make it more and more obvious that the integrity of those bubble groups is so important, and not allowing infection to spread across those bubble groups. And with that in mind, I remind again everybody please to bring masks into school, and to the students in particular to wear them around the corridors in the Victorian building. If I could ask parents to maybe provide a couple of masks for their children to bring in. It's becoming very difficult for us when children lose their mask, which I do understand, it happens, they fall out their pockets or whatever it might be, and we're just running out of supplies. In fact, the college office has been giving away hundreds of them over the course of the last week. So if you could supply your child with a couple of masks in their pockets, I'd be really, really grateful. It would just really help us. So thank you in advance for that. One of the real challenges for us that's emerging is the hybrid teaching challenge, which is where we have all or part of a class at home where the teacher's at school, or where the teacher's at home and the class is at school. So the interface between home and school needs to be as fluid as possible, and that's a real challenge. It costs us more because we have to invest quite a lot of technology in those classrooms where we're trying to make that work. We also at times need to put additional staff into those classrooms to facilitate the learning as well. So there's a real cost implication to doing that. Now we're absolutely committed to doing it, because if you need to self-isolate and be at home, then you need to be at home and self-isolate, and we need to give you an education. So we will absolutely do that and bear that responsibility when that happens. But what I would say, please, is if your child is not self-isolating because of COVID-19 but isn't very well, they can't piggyback onto that service. That we just can't manage like that. So please be mindful of the toll it takes on the teachers and on the resourcing here at school. If your child is unwell for other reasons, then they need to be at home and stay in bed until they're better and then come back to school. We can't have someone who is unwell deciding to just to join in that remote experience for the reasons I've just outlined. So I really would value your support in that, please. Either they're at home self-isolating with COVID-19, but they're well enough to join in that hybrid remote learning, and of course we will support that, or they're not well for other reasons, in which case they need to stay at home, rest, not engage with teaching and learning, and then come back to school as soon as they're better. Thank you so much for your support with that, but it is a real challenge for us, and we do need you to support us. Couple of pieces of good news, I hope, which is that you will be getting your 2 open mornings back, Saturday mornings, or perhaps you've planned to do other things while your children were here at open morning, in which case not such good news. But anyway, the open mornings will come back to you because we're not running them in that way. Equally, that does mean that on the Fridays preceding, where we would normally cut the afternoon and have a half day for students, that will also not be happening. So they will have a full day on those Fridays, but will not be required on Saturday. We are doing a lot of marketing events, but very small scale marketing events of small groups of parents who are on the school site in a very contained way. But we're not doing, for obvious reasons, those big open morning events. So your children won't be required for those Saturdays, but will be required for the full days on the Friday preceding. I'd also like to give a bit of a heads up to parents of year 11 and year 13, please. So those who are doing public exams, it is looking more and more likely that they will push back those exams in the summer. I don't know how late they will happen, but they will happen later. So those of you who are optimistically booking summer holidays, if you're in year 11 and year 13, I would really encourage caution in that regard until you know the full landscape of when those exams will be happening. So please do be cautious about that. That would be awful, obviously, if you'd booked a holiday and then the exams fell within it, which could well happen. Couple of last things from me. The build is going exceptionally well. I had a real pleasure the other day of walking around that new building and seeing it. It really is incredible. Those of you who are coming to the development plan launch this evening will hear more about that from the bursar, but it's incredible. And the sixth form centre is just going to be really remarkable. It's going to totally transform that sixth form experience. And with that in mind, we've organised a number of tours of the bursar and Wilmot Dixon, our builders, for year 11 students. We might try and do it with year 10 students as well. So those students who are really looking forward now to the sixth form transition, to have a look around and have a look at that development, which is really exciting. And there are some Discover the Sixth Form sessions immediately after those tours. All of that will be coming out in a letter from Mr. O'Dwyer in due course, if you haven't received that already. And finally, on the subject of buildings, I just wanted to give you a in-person, apologies probably too strong, but to write a letter to you about trying to raise additional money and to ask you for additional money at a time of such economic challenge, and challenge in all sorts of other ways, does feel a bit distasteful to me. On the other hand, of course, the reality of our situation, and I hope you get a chance to read my letter and watch the video that I've done for the alumni, but the reality of our situation is that we do desperately need to raise some more funds, not to complete the STEM block or the junior school or the sixth form centre, that's all taken care of, but to demolish the buildings in the centre of the school, to reposition the performing arts into a performing arts centre. All of that requires additional money. So I know that many of you are already sacrificing such a great deal to be able to continue to send your children here, and my thanks. But if anybody does feel able to talk with me about raising additional funds for the Performing Arts Centre and for the plaza, the big recreational space in the middle of the school, I would really, really love to hear from you. It's a particularly difficult time, as you can imagine, for fundraising, and I really do need to hear from those parents who might be interested in working with me on that or helping that in any way whatsoever. So that's it from me for this week. I hope very much that you have a lovely weekend. I think the sun's still with us for a bit longer, and I look forward to catching up again at the end of next week. Thank you.